Okay, and we're on. So, welcome Audio for Authors listeners. I'm Bradley Charbonneau, and today I have Evan Gao from Story Origin. And I would introduce him, but he has so many things going on with his with his products and services that I'm going to let him choose what he wants to focus on. And because we're an audio show looking to help audio of all formats for authors, today I'd like to focus on audio, specifically audiobooks and reviews, and how to succeed as authors and get more reviews. So it's kind of what I'm getting at here, is get more reviews as an author for your audiobooks. And there's so many aspects of this that he is just taking care of. And he just recently launched a new service that I'm going to let him talk about, but that's why I really wanted to talk about him, because he has done something so fantastic and so helpful for audiobook authors that, wow, I'm just like in awe and thrilled to have you on the show. So I'll let you give a quick intro and we can jump into exciting stuff like you were just telling me about that I want to get right back to. This is Evan Gao.
You're making me blush over here. Thank you so much for having me on. So just to give the quick rundown on what Story Origin is, it's a marketing tool / community that helps authors build their mailing lists, increase their sales, and find reviewers. And the way that it works is by authors cross-promoting each other's books through their newsletters. And those can be either a one-to-one sort of cross-promotion where, you know, I'm promoting your book, you're promoting my book, or they can be group promotions where a bunch of us authors all in the same genre will list our books on a single landing page, and then we'll all promote that one landing page. And so, you know, for getting reviews, those can be for ebooks, or the new feature that I just introduced is for audio books, as we were talking about.
Well, see, I even just glossed over mailing lists, but of course that's so important for an author, and I've jumped right over to audiobook reviews, but but building the mailing list, I mean, you covered that too. And
Yep.
I mean, I was listening to you, kind of doing my homework and listening to you on another podcast earlier today, and you were talking about all of these features of Story Origin. Could you you mentioned a few just now, but and I know I said I wanted to focus on audio, but just to give people who don't know what Story Origin is, an idea of all the things it can do. So, I mean, you mentioned mailing list, reviews, newsletter swaps.
Increasing sales. Yep.
Oh, increasing sales. Oh, well, yeah. That's always good.
Wow. Yeah. So Story Origin is sort of a one-stop shop for a lot of different stuff. So, you know, there's a couple of places where you might go to post a reader magnet and to build your mailing list. Then there are a couple places that you might go to create universal book links, which help with sort of localizing. You know, Amazon's got different storefronts for different countries. You know, Story Origin can help make sure that those readers are landing in the correct Amazon storefront for your book. Yeah. And so there are a couple of platforms that you might use to create those universal book links. There are a couple of platforms that you can use to sort of find reviewers and build your review team. Story Origin does that as well. No one else right now is doing the providing a distribution platform for your promo codes from ACX or from Findaway, in helping you to distribute those promo codes to audio listeners to build reviews on your audiobook. So that one is super unique to Story Origin. But yeah, there's you know, Story Origin's that one-stop shop, do everything in one place.
Wow. So again, the reason I found you and the reason I wanted to have you on was because the one you just mentioned is, so dear audiobook authors out there, if you have ever tried to get reviews, so for example, there's a service called Audiobook Boom, and what they do is it's like many of the reviewing services. They have a big list, and they, based on category and genre or whatever, they divvy it up, and then the people who are interested come to you. But with audiobooks, it's kind of a few more steps, depending.
Yeah.
And if you're with ACX, you have a code. And that's just recently changed where at least that's just the code for your own book, which is actually a good thing because I remember I would have codes and I would never hear from anybody again. And I realized later, I'm like, oh, wow, I'm just giving away free Audible audiobooks, and who knows where they went.
Right.
And I'm like, woohoo, I just got the $29.99, drama 14 hour huge book. Thanks for that audio code, Bradley. Too bad about your book though. Later. So yeah, that didn't work out well. Not to mention trying to track those codes, like who got the code, where did it go, when did I do it, stuff like that. And then, so Story Origin is helping with that by having them as, so each reviewer is a person, right? They have an account then in Story Origin as a reviewer. Okay. Is that the same account they would have to do other things? Like what if they were also an ARC reader? Would that they just have one account and they do all these things?
Yep. Yeah. So you manage everything from a single account on Story Origin, whether you're reviewing ebooks or audiobooks.
Oh wow. So me as an author, can I also be a reviewer?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
yeah.
Cool.
The only thing I would recommend is if you're an author and you're reviewing books on Story Origin and you want to keep stuff separate because maybe you use a pen name and you want to keep that pen name anonymous and separate from your reviewer profile, then just you can create a second account on Story Origin. It's
okay.
So it sort of just depends.
Yeah. Okay. So the benefits for an author, especially for an audiobook author, here's I'm just going to give you one because this is again what I'm so excited about is that I was digging through spreadsheets and trying to figure out who got what code and did they redeem it. And and then how can I follow up with them? Okay, I can bug them with the email thing. But you have a lot of that taken care of as far as I understand. And then not to mention you are adding on top of that group promos where several audiobook authors can get together and do newsletter swaps and group promos.
That's right.
Can you walk through sort of as either as an audiobook creator or as a reviewer, kind of how does that process work?
Yeah, so I guess let's talk about it from the audiobook creator perspective, and then we can talk a little bit from the reader perspective, just because I think that makes sense from a linear standpoint.
Yeah.
So from the creator's perspective, and you've gone through this before, essentially what you do is you go to the audiobook codes tab of your dashboard on Story Origin, upload the book cover your book, your description and all of that, say where it's available to review, whether that's Audible or Amazon or Goodreads or BookBub, etc. And then you'll have a landing page where readers can come and apply to get one of those codes.
Wow.
And when
so they have to apply, they don't just get it.
They don't just get it. That's right. So they apply for one of your codes, and then you as the author get to, when they apply, you can see, when they requested it. And then you can also click a button to check out their reviewer profile and history on Story Origin. So you can see, okay, this person has actually reviewed and submitted links for 80% of the audiobooks that they've received through Story Origin. And they've done that on Amazon, BookBub, and Goodreads, let's say. And so before approving that person, you can say, oh, okay, you have that this person is likely to review because they've got an 80% review rate. And so that Story Origin gives you the control as the author to do that. That's
so
and you
great.
can make
I'm crying over here. That's so fantastic. I mean, you're really getting at the stuff that is painful for us.
Yes.
And I'm sure you know this, but when you just fix the pain stuff, I mean, that's just it's just a beautiful thing. And then, you're even adding a bonus because even if I were to go to Audible and see, okay, Joe Schmo's reviewed a whole bunch of books, but who knows his story, right? I mean,
Right.
whereas if he's in Story Origin and he's building up his sort of resume, or
Yeah.
stars or however it's going to work,
Right.
then I can see, oh, this guy's legit.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I'm going to accept this guy.
Yeah.
Whereas you got like Slacker Sally over there, who's a freebie hoarder,
Right.
and she's got all she takes all these books and doesn't review anything. Well, no way, I'm not giving her one of my valuable
Right.
codes. Okay,
Exactly.
wow, that's super cool.
And so when
Yeah.
those readers apply on Story Origin 2, they say where they're going to leave a review. So if they say that they're going to leave a review on Audible, then they're also asked to provide the link to their Audible profile. So when you check out their reviewer profile on Story Origin, you can see what percentage of reviews they've completed through Story Origin, but you can also still go and click to their Audible profile and see, okay, what other books have they actually listened to, and are those in my genre? Because even if they, even if they apply to review, you and have a high review rate, you might still choose to decline that application because you go and you see, oh, they actually read this other genre, which is kind of related, but not quite what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to give this person a copy just because I don't want them to be thrown off because it's, doesn't contain the tropes that they're generally looking for in the genre that they like, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So speaking of the reviewers, how are you getting the reviewers to then come to Story Origin? Like what's the sales pitch, so to speak? And then how can we, because I'm in this, I mean, we're kind of in this together. I want Story Origin to succeed because I want more reviewers, and I want ARC Team, and I want one place, and I want it easy for the reviewers, and I want them to be in there and have other benefits. I mean, I was emailing with reviewers of a book of mine, and they were new to Story Origin, of course, and they were like, what is this Story Origin thing? What's that all about? And I didn't know so much the benefits from the reader or reviewer perspective, so you can help me with that. But one thing I thought of was, hey, once you're in Story Origin, guess what? There's going to be a lot of authors where you can pick and choose books that you can read to review or be on the ARC team. And we're a bunch of hungry authors with new work, and that might be really interesting. So what are the benefits? Like, let's say somebody's listening now and they love reviewing books, or they're thinking, ooh, like free new audiobooks, and ebooks, of course, to review and read. Like, what are some of the benefits for them, or why would they join Story Origin?
Yeah. So, there's a couple of reasons. So once a reviewer signs up to Story Origin, they can go to their dashboard and they can actually go and click and see what group promotions are currently running for review copies. And they can see those group promotions. And those group promotions can be either for ebook review copies or for audiobook review copies. In the audiobook review copy group promotions feature, I know it gets like super super long now, but those group promotions for audiobooks are brand new. So they're just, a lot of them are just starting up tomorrow or the next day, actually. And so now reviewers can go and they'll see a bunch of those currently running group promotions for audiobooks. And then the second thing is, if you're an avid reviewer and you're reviewing, one or two books a week, it can be hard. You might need to keep a spreadsheet with what books you've got outstanding, what you're going to review, and all of that stuff. Story Origin keeps all of that, tracks all of that for you right in your reviewer dashboard, and you can see what date you were approved for the copy, and so you can sort of keep an ordered list of, oh, I need to do this one next, this one next, this one next.
So you even keep track, you have a dashboard for the reviewer as well?
Yep, that's right. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Wow. So, I mean, I'm not like an active reviewer. I review books because I'm an author. I know how important reviews are, right? So of course I leave reviews of books I've read, but I wouldn't think of going directly to Story Origin to look for new books. But people do that, of course, right? And they're hungry for new books, and they're, like you said, avid reviewers. So they could see Story Origin as like a precursor to the early stuff, like before it's out on the
Yeah.
Amazons and the whatever and the book retailers of the world, they could see it like, ooh, hey, here's the fresh new stuff.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
for
kind of
sure.
cool. Wow,
Yeah,
and keep track. Yeah.
and those review copies for Story Origin, as you mentioned, they can be pre-publication, right? So
Okay.
they can be for books that are not even out yet, or they can be post-publication. So books that
Ah,
you might have released a year ago, but you haven't gotten many reviews on it, and you want to boost the number of reviews on it, you can still create review copies on Story Origin for those, and try and find reviewers with that feature.
okay. Yeah, I did that for sure.
Yeah,
Because you can always use some more reviews.
for sure.
Yeah. Wow. So what else? How can I, so if I'm talking with another author, or how can
Yep.
I as an author, help Story Origin grow and be better? How can I help you? How can authors, especially, and again, I'm focusing on the audiobook and narrator world,
Right.
but if you want to be general, that's fine. But how can I as an author help Story Origin? What can I do?
Yeah. Story Origin is a community, and so
Okay.
it's always growing, and it's about sort of providing the value of one of the big values of Story Origin is that by going to Story Origin, you can find other authors that are in your genre to cross promote
Okay.
with, to do these group
Great.
promotions or newsletter swaps. And so, for each genre that gets started on Story Origin and starts to build momentum, it's sort of like almost building a new product, right? So, you know, there aren't maybe necessarily a ton of nonfiction authors on Story Origin. And so by going in, creating a nonfiction group promotion and inviting other nonfiction authors
Okay.
to join,
Okay.
you start to then build that community on Story Origin because there are all these segmented communities, right? Sort of
Yeah.
one for each genre. There's the sci-fi fantasy, the romance, mystery, thriller,
Right.
nonfiction, etc. And so if you're sort of looking around and you're not seeing many other people in your genre on Story Origin, one great thing to do is create a group promotion and start inviting other people from that genre to join. And then once you've got that, then you can start organizing newsletter swaps with them and doing a whole bunch of other cool stuff.
And of course, you mean authors who are not yet, not yet in Story Origin.
Yeah.
Like, well, if they are, great, they'll find me or I can invite them too. But you mean like other nonfiction authors who I know elsewhere? I say, hey, I want to do a promo. Come
Right.
join me. And
Right.
I'm doing it through Story Origin. So yeah, you got to sign up through Story Origin. But hey, here's the benefits. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
Money.
And honestly, even if they're already on Story Origin,
Yeah.
there are so many authors on Story Origin who, they've maybe just tried out putting up a reader magnet and joining a few group giveaways, and they're building their
Yeah.
mailing list with Story Origin. But
Right.
maybe they're using something else for their reviews or whatever, right?
Okay.
And then once they test out Story Origin, uh, the response has always been like, at least from authors that I've talked to, I've tried 5 different platforms for getting more reviews on my
Wow.
books, and I basically am leaving all those behind because Story Origin centralized and did took care of a lot of the stuff that I had to do sort of manually with spreadsheets and whatnot before. And
Wow.
so even for authors that that are on Story Origin, sometimes they might not have even tried out the feature that you're just starting to do, like with the audiobook review codes, right? It's super new feature, and
Yeah.
so a lot of people are sort of still getting onboarded with it.
And so I did already ask a few authors. I said, hey, come join me on this Story Origin audiobook promo. But
Yeah,
then some newer authors said, oh, I'm not quite there yet I don't have the audiobooks available to share. But
right.
then a more experienced author with audiobooks, they don't need to, their audiobooks just exist on Audible, ACX, or
Right.
Findaway, and like everywhere else. So all
Yep.
they really need, like the requirement is that they have an audiobook up on ACX or Findaway, right?
Yep.
And then it doesn't matter. It doesn't need to be free or no, because we're
Nope.
not talking about buying it. We're talking about giving them codes to get it.
Yep.
So they would
Yeah.
need code. So if they're on Audible, because I just contacted an author today, I said, hey,
Yeah.
come join me. And she says, oh, I'm all out of codes.
Oh.
And so
Yeah.
I thought could it be in the past that you were allowed to ask Audible, hey, can I have some more?
So you can get up to 100 Audible codes for the US and for the UK. So 200 codes
Oh,
in
wow.
total, 100 for each market. And you only get them 25 at a time. So if you run out of your first 25 codes on ACX, you can request an additional 25 from ACX up to 100.
Okay. Per US and then per
Yeah.
UK. Okay.
Yeah. And one thing that's actually pretty cool about the ACX codes, at least, that not even a lot of authors who have ACX codes know this, but Audible actually pays you for distributing those codes. So you actually make money from
You mean the bounty?
You get paid out for that book like it was a sale
Really?
when someone redeems one of your ACX codes.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Any more tricks up your sleeve about about ACX and Findaway? I mean, because you seem to know all this stuff. I know Findaway pretty well, but you already
Right.
told me a few things that I didn't know. That was really cool. Wow.
None immediately come to mind, but that's definitely a big one.
Yeah. So from the authors that you've been communicating with, is it majority on ACX or Findaway? I mean, I know Findaway is kind of a new kid on the block. Is more with ACX, or do you see a trend?
I would say definitely there are more audio codes which are for ACX. But I think that Findaway is growing really quickly, just because, a lot more authors want to have the higher royalty rates associated with, going wide and being able to distribute to a whole bunch of different places and having more control over where their audiobooks get distributed. So it makes sense from an economic standpoint. And so it's really growing. And I was talking with Will Dages, who's the head of Findaway Voices, which is the audiobook platform built specifically for self-published authors for Findaway. And he was saying that, you might think that Audible is the big player in the market, but and they are a big player on the market, but it's not like they have 80%, market share or anything like that. It's actually one of, people are going to a bunch of different places for audiobooks, and even a lot of readers are listening to audiobooks through their libraries, which they, through Hoopla and through and
Overdrive.
through Hoopla. Yeah, exactly. In those, so even when a listener reads to your book through library and through a platform like Hoopla, both you still will get paid for paid for that listen. So yeah.
I think that is such a gem right there. I just found out what you're saying recently. And I think this is win, 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 right?
Yeah.
It's author gets paid, library gets a checkout, library patron gets audiobook or ebook.
Right.
And then I got paid, library is good, library's happy, and the library patron gets my book for free.
Yeah.
But I still get paid. And then the amount is paid was not totally clear how that all works, but maybe it's different per library, or do you know?
I'm not entirely clear on how that economic model works because I'm not deep in the weeds of it. But
yeah. I have to say one thing. So I'm clearly biased. I love Findaway. I think. I mean, for example, one thing. So I got a comment today. So by the way, for the record, I'm super busy with Story Origin in there. I'm loving it. I'm a fan, and I've been working the audiobook codes as much as I can. And so I've been getting feedback in the past few days. I'm so glad we were able to talk so soon, because I'm in the middle of the thick of it, right? And so, I had one guy gave me some feedback, and he said, "Oh yeah, one of your books was really short," and he said, "Yeah," and I saw it was $7.99 on Audible, and he says, no offense, but I wouldn't have paid that for your short
Yeah.
full book. And I said, I wouldn't pay it either, but I don't, I mean, I don't want it to be $7.99, but I have
Right.
no choice for Audible pricing. They price it at whatever they want, and I have no
Right.
say in the matter. And
Yeah.
that's like harsh. That kind
Yeah.
of sucks, right?
Yeah.
Whereas like Chirp Audio, it's new, like offshoot from BookBub.
Right.
And there, so through Findaway, I can change my price. And then I can, through Findaway again, I can have discounts. So I can have like the month of October right now, I have like, I don't know, 3 books on discount. And it's like, I can choose a discount as well.
Yeah.
It's like 90% off or something crazy, right?
Right.
But hey, that's super fun. And then I can promote that month because I've got a discount going. And so I told this guy too, I'm like, hey, check out Chirp, for example,
Yeah.
because I don't want you to pay. I don't think my book is worth $7.99. It's literally, I'm not kidding. It's like a 23-minute short story.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so, this is kind of the route I'm going, which is also like why you and I talked, and I said, hey, let's keep this under half an hour because, because I think we're getting there too. But I believe I want like shorter, punchier content. You know, I want like the drive to work, or get that little short story in, or I write a lot of nonfiction. So I want like that one idea, almost like an article. I mean, one of my last quote books was, I think it was 2,000 words. I mean, it's like a long newspaper article, right?
Yeah.
And so, no, I wouldn't pay $7.99 for that. But if I can get it on Chirp for 99 cents, cool.
Right.
So,
yeah. And having that pricing control is so important. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's just it's so cool. I mean, I think I should work for Findaway Voices. I'm such a fan of so much stuff that they're doing. So, and I think I'm going to see Will. How do you pronounce his last name? Findaway. Dages.
I could be pronouncing it wrong though.
Okay. he's going to be at a 20 bucks to 50K.
Yeah.
Vegas big writers conference in a couple of weeks, where I will be heading. Yeah. Are you going?
Very exciting time. I will not be going. So
okay. that might be fun next year, because you are a popular guy.
That is definitely something that I'll be looking into for next year. I didn't get in early enough this year, but I'm hoping that people talk about Story Origin, at least, since I won't be there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I volunteer. I will.
All right. I got you signed up. There we go.
Yeah. Because you have been. I mean, if you're listening to this and you don't know what Story Origin is, just go check it out. What's your domain name? You have like a really cool domain name.
StoryOriginApp.com.
Okay, but then your email was like G and then .in or something.
Yeah. So the original domain name, the original domain name that I bought was storyorg.in, and then I realized this is gonna be too complicated to ever explain on any podcast. So I'm gonna buy storyoriginapp.com.
Okay.
Because explaining where you put the period in storyorg.in.
You know, I totally suffer from being too clever sometimes. I'm like, it's like the coolest book title of all time. And people are like, I'm sorry, what does it mean again? What? How do you spell it? Oh, man. Well, I liked the original domain name, but
I appreciate that.
So storyoriginapp.com.
Yep.
Okay. And it's free. It's free right now as October 2019, but it won't always be free, from what I understand. Okay.
Yeah. So I like to be as transparent about this stuff as possible. So if you go, on the front page of Story Origin and you just scroll down, or if you go to the pricing page of Story Origin, you will see there, a little blurb about, what is Story Origin, and what's going on. So right now, Story Origin is in what I call an open beta. And a lot of people assume that the word beta means crappy software.
It doesn't work.
That doesn't work. That's right. And that is not at all what is the case with Story Origin.
Yeah,
so
I can vouch for that.
In this case, beta just means that it's free while I'm still figuring out what the pricing model is going to be. But, Story Origin is already delivered something like over 300,000 reader magnets and review
What?
copies and stuff. So it's definitely been well tested and all of that stuff. So right now you can get all of the features completely free. And the promise that I make to people is that, if you sign up during this period while it's still in sort of an open beta and while I'm figuring out what the pricing model is going to be and while I'm doing, basically weekly feature releases.
Yeah. Yep. I hang on your every word on your post. Like, wow, what's he got new coming up? You're just having way too much fun over there creating new features, and we're just loving it.
Yeah. And so, part of that is basically I want to be able to spend all of my time on building the best product possible and having the best possible thing for all of those things we talked about: building mailing lists, getting reviews, distributing codes, all of that stuff. And so that's what my main focus is right now, but eventually it will be a paid product. And it won't be insane, right? It's going to be something super affordable, something probably like $10 per month. I'm still sort of figuring out what that's going to be, and that's partly what the open beta is about as well. But the promise that I make to you is basically, if you sign up during this period, even when it becomes paid for new authors who join, you'll still get to use all the features for free for at least a couple of months or several months. I'm not exactly sure, but
So in other words, get in now.
Yeah, for sure.
Get in now while the going's good.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, there are too many reasons to list. Well, we've listed most of them here to join as an author, as an audiobook creator, as a reviewer, as a reader, as a listener. Wow. It's just, I sound like I'm your sales guy, but I'm like, there's no reason not to join.
Yeah, and you can know that I'm not paying Bradley because I make no money from Story Origin either. So
period. So that big commission of $0 goes to me. Yeah. Okay. Well, I am a happy customer, that's for sure. So I'm looking forward to the future of it. I can't believe the updates and the upgrades. You just keep adding on features. It's just fantastic. So we're loving it.
And if you ever have feedback, send it my way. Okay. I'm always looking to continue to make it better.
Will do. Well, I hope this podcast, and by the way, podcast listeners, if you're listening to this, we have been doing this all on video. If you want to go check it out, I'll put a link to YouTube if you want to watch our smiling, laughing faces, chatting it up here for half an hour. We're there. You'll get to see Evan in the flesh. But check out Story Origin. There is, like I said, I pretty much am his sales guy. Just there's no reason not to sign up as an author or even a reader, and especially while the going's good and he's in his open beta, and it's just such good stuff. And I'm looking forward to where you're heading, and maybe we'll talk again in a few months and see where things are. That'd be great.
I've always got new stuff to release, so there's always something to talk about.
Correct. I bet. All right, well, we've crammed as much as we can into a half an hour. I could talk with you for another hour about all kinds of other features, but we'll leave it for next time. And next time we'll see what other features you've got up your sleeve. But for now, thank you. You have such a service for authors. It's just awesome.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate getting able to share this stuff with your listeners.
Yeah, great. All right. Thanks a lot.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.